Today's lesson, we'll be talking about learning target 3, which states that I can find the percent of change. Okay, so there's some vocabulary that we kind of have to lay out here first, and a little review as well before we kind of start talking about or getting into percent of change. So the first word here is ratio. Now for ratio, this is just a comparison between two quantities. Okay, so any fraction fits this category. So you could say 2/5. You could also write it differently, so you could actually have labels as well. So 4 girls, 2, 3 boys. That would be a ratio. You could say 5 blue to 2 red, stuff like that. Okay, so colon, the word 2, or writing it as a fraction are all different ways of writing a ratio. The one that we'll use the most here is the fraction form, because that leads me into the next one, which is a proportion. So a proportion is a number sentence where two ratios are equal to each other. Okay, so now remember that they're equal, so the ratios need to be the same. Now they can be written differently, but they just need to be the same to each other. So an easy one here is like 1/2 equals 2/4. Okay, now I can easily reduce 2/4 to say 1/2 because they both have a value of 2 that you can take out or cancel out there to make it 1/2, but that's the basic idea of a proportion. Now, the proportions that we'll be dealing with, you will not know one of them, so it'll more look like x divided by 7 equals 80 30ths. So something like that. Or, yeah, that's just kind of like the basic idea of a proportion. So we're going to be solving for one piece that is missing to the proportion, or one of the ratios that's in the proportion. Okay, now that'll lead us to what a percent of change is. Okay, so here, percent of change shows how much an amount has changed in relation to the original amount. Okay, so here, comparison of two quantities. So this is still going to be dealing with ratios. So we're showing an amount that has changed in relation to the original amount. So you have like the starting value that you're going to have, and we want to be able to see how much it changed in relation to that starting value. Okay, so here is a formula for you to go by. So, and it's going to be in proportion form. So the top is the change in quantity, okay, divided by the original quantity or amount, okay, and that's going to equal the percent divided by 100. Okay, now sometimes the change in quantity can be positive or negative. So this is where we're going to involve what we've already learned, and we're going to have absolute value bars here. Let me just make these different colors so you can see them better. Okay, so we're going to take the absolute value of that change, because when we're looking for percent, we don't really want to look at a negative percent. We want to just state what the percent of change is, whether that's increase or decrease. Those words will take care of whether it's positive or negative. Okay, so a little shorter kind of look of this. So change original percent over 100, and then you've got the absolute value of that change. Okay, now to determine if something is percent increase or decrease, a percent of increase is when the original amount increases to a larger amount. Okay? Percent of decrease is when the original amount decreases to a smaller amount. Okay? So, just like the words say, percent of increases, so your starting amount goes up, decreases, starting value goes down, basically, to a new smaller value. Okay? That's pretty self-explanatory. So now that we kind of have those basics, now we need to kind of review how we're going to solve proportions. We've kind of talked about this in Unit 2, where we were trying to solve equations that involved fractions. And so I kind of showed you how to deal with these in different ways. So I'm just going to reiterate one of those, or a couple of those ways, so you have those in your pocket. So one way of doing this is cross multiplication. So you multiply the things cross or kitty corner from one another, or diagonally, and then you can divide. So cross multiply and divide is usually what we say. So it doesn't matter like the order of multiplication and which side things are, but just as long as you take the things that are diagonal from one another and you're multiplying them, and you take those two multiplications and set them equal to one another, that's all we're really looking for here. So a times 30 would be 30a. 5 times 54 would be 270. And then I want to divide by 30 so I can get a by itself. So that would give me 9. So a would be 9 for this one. Okay. Next one. Now, sometimes you can do this to both sides. So v is on top. So I can see that v is being divided by 46. So another way of dealing with this would be just multiplying both sides by 46. Okay, and so then here 46 v over 46 equals 1023 over, oops, sorry, I misspoke there. Nope. 1058 divided by 23. I was putting two numbers together that I didn't need to. So now I can reduce. So 46 divided by 46 cancel out, leaving you with v. And then 1058 divided by 23 gets me. Sorry about that. I was looking at my multiplication and on my sheet it's wrong. So 34 times 46 is actually 1,564. And that divided by 23 should be 68. And that would be my answer there. Okay. Now, I would say between the two, the one that you're going to want to deal with more often is the cross multiplication. But like, if your variable's in the numerator you can do either one. So like number 2 and number 3. If it's like 4 and 1, where the variable's in the denominator, then it's going to be a little harder to be able to deal with that. So like 3, I could multiply both sides by 6. And then these cancel each other out on the right. 6 times 3 gives me 18. 1 times 7 is 7. And then I'm left with x. X minus 2 on the right. And then I want to be able to add 2 to both sides. Now here, 18 sevenths plus 2, I would need to make common denominator. Okay. So then that gets me 14 sevenths. So 18 plus 14 gets me 32. And that leaves me with x on the right. So then that would be my answer. Okay. Now, if you didn't want to have to deal with making common denominators, cross multiplication is usually the easiest way to go about this. So I would cross multiply here on number 4. Now notice that I have a 3 times the y plus 6. So I need to be able to take 3 times both of them. So there's going to be parentheses around the y plus 6. And then 12 times 2. So 12 times 2 is 24. On the right, I want to distribute. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 6 is 18. And then I need to subtract. So 24 minus 18 gets me 6. And then now that it's set equal to 3y, I need to undo the 3 times y. So I divide both sides by 3. And then that gets me y equals 2. And that would be my answer. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and then I'll start the next video with the next set of problems.